What's up, everybody? Happy May. I can't believe it's May already. It's Austin over at Origin Point. My buddy Mason.
Hey guys.
So it's interesting. We're discussing what do we talk about today, and we're talking about different things that we've seen in the market. So I'm gonna go ahead and just share what we picked, and I'm gonna make it a little bit bigger for us too, right? What? Because what we're finding is there's all these conversations that people are having. It's like, oh my God, that's amazing. That's amazing. And yet not really. So the real life example we were talking about is that a client say, can you just email me rates? And I was like, I don't know enough about you. Here's a range. Can we talk through the process? And they're like, we'll see. So, Mason, it sounds like you've got some curious situations that you've gone through recently on the same kind of idea.
Yeah, absolutely. So I had two instances recently where we were working to get a buyer over to Austin's team to get pre-approved, and they decided to go with another lender because they were floating these artificially low prices and low interest rates to them up front. They had quoted them this stuff up front. And then lo and behold, we get into escrow and we get relatively far into escrow. And all of a sudden, there's these hidden fees. They didn't include their escrow prepaid, so they weren't looking at the big picture of what it was going to cost out of pocket for the buyer. The interest rate was higher than they expected because they didn't realize that a rate buy down had been factored in. So just all these different things. There's so many different intricacies with the loan. And obviously, I'm not a loan expert. I'm a realtor. That's why we rely on Austin's team for that kind of stuff. But, I feel like people get misled all the time, and you can get hooked by just a low rate that you see online or low closing costs or what have you. And sometimes you get blindsided and you're too far into escrow to back out, and then you're just in a bad deal that you can't really turn away from. So it was a sad situation that could have gone a lot better if we had somebody like Austin's team on it instead.
Oh my gosh, thanks, Mason. Like we've been seeing that a lot lately. We had someone say, "Oh, we're going with this other lender," and they call 2 weeks in. They're like, "And this, and this, and this, and this." I'm like, "I know. That's why we put your proposal like that." And they're like, "Well, why wouldn't they have mentioned it?" And I was like, "Well, unfortunately, some people really just want to just bounce trap it, right? Like you are too far in so that you would feel trapped. And they feel that if they don't disclose everything, it's not going to be maybe as sexy, for lack of a better term.
Right,
But I
absolutely.
I don't want you to have those surprises. I don't want that to be that free lunch, like, stopping your neck on the other side, right? So when you're looking at options for clients, Mason, and you're hearing some of these things, what are generally some red flags that our audience might be able to hear us kind of bring up a little bit? What are some red flags in your world that you hear?
Yeah, if they're not including your full out-of-pocket costs like escrow prepaids and everything like that, if they're artificially low interest rates, like you said, we have a rough idea of the range of interest rates right now, and if they're showing these artificially low rates, usually there's something else in there. It's a big red flag for us too, oftentimes if it's a lender we've never heard of out of the area. I mean, working with a local lender who's going to be upfront and honest that you might run into at the grocery store is a lot safer than working, trusting the biggest investment of your life to somebody you have no idea who they are. You just saw this teaser rate kind of dangled in front of you online. And a lot of times you can actually look these companies up too. And a lot of people have a lot of the same stories. There'll be reviews about, how they felt like they were put in a bad situation because of this lender. So those are some of the things that we see on our side. Also, on a realtor side, personally, just communication. If the lender's not communicating with us, if they're not being upfront with us to talk about their clients, we all work as a team to get our buyers across the finish line. And if, you're not working right off the bat with somebody, it's kind of worrisome. It's like, what's it going to be like in escrow if things get a little hairy? So, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that it's interesting. I sat down with the realtor today, and I'll stop the share, and she's like, "Is there anything we can do?" And I was like, "Yeah, absolutely. Like I know that they wanted to go here because of X, Y, and Z. They were promised, and again, now they're into the escrow. They've got 3 weeks to make it happen, and that lender can't perform, right? So when you're interviewing a realtor, it is all the conversations. When you're interviewing a lender, it is all the conversations, right? I think anybody in any position that offers a quick, all right, great, 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 done, and anything you want to hear, there might be a red flag, right?
Absolutely. Yep.
And I think too, like you said, communication is key, right? So if we've got people that If you need something after hours, if you need something over the weekend, we've got to be available to you. But I think we also have to be sure that we're including the data you need, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's the way we do things is that's why we usually want to start with an initial buyer consultation to sit down and dial in on exactly what you're looking for. One of the first things we do from there is say, get in touch with the lender. So, because that dictates what we do too, to make sure we're looking in the right price range and everything like that, and not overextending you. And to make sure that you're not going to be overextending, that we're looking in the right price range, you have to have a realistic idea of not only what you're pre-approved for, but what your monthly payment is going to be, at least a rough
Right.
idea, and having that transparent communication up front between the lender, between the buyer, between us, just make sure that we're all moving in the right direction. And it's super important, without a doubt.
Absolutely. Well, we're always grateful to serve your clients. To us, outside of any inspections you might do, because that's a property concern, right? We really want to know within $500 what you're going to write a check for. Like we're going to
Right.
really work in those boundaries so you have it. I got to give Mason some kudos. We recently closed for someone that found us on social, so
Yep.
thanks, Warren. Right, and the conversations he was able to have with them as they were moving through of what that financial picture looked like in not only buying their new house, but selling the house they're leaving. Like that allowed them to make the right decision. They were looking at different price points and they decided on a different structure and a different value because you set that expectation down the line. So I'm always grateful for y'all and your communication. If it is sounds too good to be true, it usually is. I would rather scare you at Halloween first than when you're in escrow. Absolutely.
I agree 100%. And that's why we appreciate working with you guys because it's a big move for a lot of people, and you want to make sure you got the right people on your team, without a doubt.
100%. Well, we're grateful to serve you guys. Anything you need, you can find me and Mason. We're here to help, and we'll talk to you later.
Bye.